Let's talk about relationships. What are relationships? Well, someone defined a relationship as simply this: a series of conversations. Now, today we have technology and all kinds of various means to have these conversations. Therefore, we can build up relationships that are pretty long distance and be able to feel like you really know someone, even though you're not in their presence exactly, but yet you are able to carry on those conversations and then build those relationships. But how much does organization play in a relationship? You know, I hear people all the time say things like, well, the church is not an organization. And then that's usually followed by, the church is an organism. Well, I wouldn't want to argue with that. The church is an organism, but if we don't understand the value of organization, then we're missing the opportunity to build relationships. Because relationships are built on organized systems. Relationships are built on commitment mutually to those organizational systems. If you think about a relationship that you have, and I'm sure that you've had this same experience like all of us, you have a friend, maybe you went to school with them years ago, and you run into them or you see them perhaps every 4 or 5 years, and maybe this is someone you went to college with, someone back in the high school days. And when you see them, you catch up as much as possible and you rediscover why you liked them in the first place. And then you say something like this at the end of the conversation: boy, we need to get together more often. How many times have we said that? We need to get together more often. But you don't. And why not? Because there is not, in that case, typically, a mutual commitment to a central organizational system. Now, that's a long way around of saying that the people that we have the most contact with, we have the most conversations, therefore the greatest relationships with, are those people who share central commitment to an organizational system. Let's take work, for instance. You see the people at work every day. Why? Because you're committed to that central organization, and they are too. And the mutual commitment to a central organization creates an environment where relationships are built. You may know people that you go to the gym with every week. There are people you go to church with every week. There are people you go to school with every day and every week. Well, if we were to take a gym, a workplace, a school, and even a church, and ask what do those 4 things have in common, we would say this: they are all central organizations. And so when we make statements like, the church is not an organization, but an organism, I know what we're trying to say. I know that our heart is that we move away from just the typical religious structures without any life. I get that. But don't ever completely leave the idea of how organizational structures are absolutely necessary for us to build the relationships that we desire. We need organizations. We thrive in these organizations. And when organizations are in their proper place and proper position, functioning as they should, there is a symbiosis that is created between relationships and the organization. Think of a grape arbor. And that grape arbor is in relationship to the grapevine. And the grapevine is organic. It's like the relationship. It kind of grows into something that is unique because it's living. It's not mechanical. But the grape arbor, no, it is mechanical. It is a system. It is an organized system, immovable. And that's what gives it the ability to have a symbiotic relationship with the vine. The same thing is true in a garden. When you're growing tomatoes, you have a stake, and there's a symbiosis between the life and the organization. You can see this throughout nature, and you can see it in the church. Indeed, the church is an organism. That is the living relationship that we have as living stones, as Peter described us, as the body of Christ, as Paul described us. However, we are mutually dependent upon a central organizational structure, and that structure is important. You don't want to go to an unorganized church. You don't want to go to a church that you never know if it's going to start at 10 or 11 or 9. You don't even know if it's going to be on Sunday, because sometimes they just show up on Saturday or Wednesday or Tuesday or Monday. You don't want to try to figure out where the children's ministry is happening, because it moves all over the place. There's no predictability, no systematic structures in place for kids ministry, so you don't even know if they're having kids ministry or not. And well, you don't know if you're going to have a sound system or not, or even whether the worship team is going to be present, because after all, we're not organized. We are not an organization. No, we are an organization, and the organism is symbiotically connected to the organization, and that's where both draw life. So yes, relationships need central organizations. This is why I look at ICAL and USCAL as so valuable, because I have so many relationships personally that if it wasn't for that organization serving as a platform upon which these relationships are built, they wouldn't exist. And I thank God that we have this organization to house and to accommodate, to foster the relationships that we enjoy. And so that's the relationship that we have between organisms and organization. They're both important, and when they're both strong, they create something beautiful.